critical, mean way, like making fun of my body. Before the next day, he says, he describes the boobs to me, and I realized at that moment there were cameras in there that fed to his offices. They had pinhole cameras in the Victoria's Secret dressing rooms in the 66th Street building, which is the flagship store. And just to fast forward, when I was in Wexner's house, there were cameras there were pinhole cameras throughout that thing. So then later Jeffrey's like, oh yeah, everything's being fed to Abigail.
She worked for Davis, as I recall,
the common interests that you share with Mr. Epstein.
With Abigail taking over the finances. And my wife is a non-M&A lawyer. She worked for Davis.
So you didn't have any personal relationship with Mr. Epstein
She took over the finances, and kind of concomitantly she was discovering. I don't think I ever went to lunch or dinner from us, and concomitantly a cup of coffee, find out about.
Did you at any time ever consider him to be a close friend?
And when we found out about it, we severed relationships with
that you were close friends with Mr. Epstein. Why do you think people would come to that conclusion?
Objection, hearsay. Speculation, because he would tell him with Abigail taking over the finances. And my wife is really smart, and she took over the finances. I wanted to get you what you want, so here it is. Happy birthday, your friend Leslie.
And what was your understanding of what Mr. Epstein would want?
Everything's being fed to Abigail.
He was a bachelor, so he drew a pair of boobs. As a kind of a joke and offhandedly, I'd say. With Abigail taking over the finances, my wife is
you said a few times throughout this deposition today that you did not consider Mr. Epstein a friend of yours. However, you signed this letter, and I quote, your friend Leslie. Why would you sign your friend Leslie to someone you did not consider to be a friend of yours?
I don't know. With Abigail taking over the finances, my wife is really smart, and she took over the finances.
Everything's being fed to Abigail.
I guess I can't explain why I would say your friends. We weren't friends. Never talked to him, never saw him. As far as I was concerned, once we knew how bad he was dead. The party's over. He said, absolutely not. Do you think I'm stupid? Which is probably what I would say to an attorney or say to you or anybody that I've worked with. If you do something off, you're out. Because that's the explanation I have to myself. It was just regularly done.
A discrete question on a different topic.
I normally say less, not less.
You know that at one point you owned a property in Palm Beach. It's a large oceanfront estate. Palm Beach. You understand that you sold that estate to Palm Beach, a guy named Abe Gossman, and that later Mr. Trump and Mr. Epstein got into a bidding war over that property. Do you have any knowledge of, did you have any involvement in that dispute between Mr. Epstein and Mr. Trump?
No.
Palm Beach.
And you have a right to ask those questions. So I'm glad to be here, and I understand what the oath is. I have to be honest with you. I'll be 80 years old if I live to the next birthday. I don't remember everything that happened 24 years ago, but I do remember some things, and I will tell you what I remember as best I can.
Objection to the foundation of the question. He's already stated he was not on the island. You're now asking about claiming the Fifth Amendment by Jeffrey Epstein.
Okay. Is it possible, and in your opinion, that you and or your wife were targeted as a means of an intelligence gathering operation?
Object to the form of the question. Object to the form of the question. No objection to if he knows that they were targeted.
I believe that's what she asked.
No, she said it's impossible, so she's asking him to speculate instead of asking him, does he know?
Do you know if you were targeted at any point?
I don't, but I don't. I'd sort of be surprised, but I'm not. I don't know.
Mr. President, before we left off, I asked you to characterize your relationship with Mr. Epstein. I asked you if you considered him to be a friend. You said you did not. Is that right?
I said we were friendly and we had a cordial relations, but I didn't know him well enough because we had almost no contact beyond what I described.
At this time, I'd like to introduce what will be marked as Majority Exhibit 13. This is Bates marked House Oversight 000126. And while it's being passed out, this is a letter from a book of letters, which
it's his 50th birthday.
Jeffrey Epstein's 50th birthday. Mr. President, do you recognize this letter? And for the record, does this appear to be your handwriting and signature?
It is.
Now, there's a word that our committee has not been able to identify, and in our defense, can you please read the letter for the record?
Yes. It's reassuring, isn't it? To have lasted so long across all the years of learning and knowing, adventures and errors, and still to have your childlike curiosity, the drive to make a difference, and the solace of friends.
Which word was it that you could not?
Solace?
No, errors.
Errors. Anybody who's lived 50 years and done anything has made mistakes as well as progress. Done for.
But for the record, you were referring to errors in judgment that Mr. Epstein had related to his inappropriate activities involving that.
Absolutely not. I knew nothing about that. And you have a right to ask those questions.
And then I have to ask this, did you engage in any sexual activities with this person?
Do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself?
Are you asking him to speculate on how Mr. Epstein died?
I am asking what the president thinks of...
So you're asking his opinion?
Mr. President, was your friend Jeffrey Epstein suicidal?
Are you classifying him as a friend who he has testified that he's friendly?
He has called him a friend in a letter.
He said he was friendly, but not. You've asked for his testimony.
Mr. President, do you believe that Jeffrey Epstein was suicidal?
I don't know. I only know what the medical finding was. I think maybe he finally got caught. I don't know. I've accepted it in my own mind. I don't know what happened.
One of my pet fears is that in London I am press toxic, so I hope that I never add to the rows in that department. If I hear anything, I will of course let you know. I could not help myself. There was one juicy little tidbit I did let out. The one about what a super stud that you are, and how I have a crush on you, and how you are hung like a horse. And, well, you get the picture. Hope you don't mind. Are you familiar with this email?
So if his knowledge is only from when he was prepared for this hearing, that would have been with his counsel, or is that what are you asking for outside of any preparation?
Yeah. It says, this email is silly, I want to spank bottoms to death. It's from the same email account, the same email that has been used before.
She's asking if you were trying to mislead the public.
Oh, no.
Okay. How many times did Lynn Maxwell visit your home in Chappaqua?
I have no idea.
Who invited her?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how. She may have been...
Mr. President, that's it.
Okay.
Hillary had political events there.
Okay. So is it to your knowledge, was she at your home in Chappaqua likely because your wife had her over for Senate events? That's what you testified earlier today, correct?
That's not what he testified, but please ask the question as to what he would actually... Thank you. I appreciate that.
I do not know, but if you are implying the reverse, I will volunteer something. She was never at my house in Chappaqua for any personal reasons.
I didn't say anything for anything personal.
No, you didn't, but you had a great tone in your voice, and you're very good at it.
Thank you. I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment.
Thank you, and I did not go to Yale Law School or any law school for that matter.
Mr. President, did you ever make any kind of attempt to influence the media's coverage of Jeffrey Epstein?
No. And you have a right to ask those questions.
You believe that the Jews run the American government. It's not a secret, Charlie. Israel did 9/11, Charlie.
Oh, they did.
Mr. President, is this true?
No. No, hell no. close, no.
Mr. President, have you ever asked any other publication to shut down a story related to Mr. Epstein?
No. And you have a right to ask those questions.
I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior. Oh, for heaven's sake. We all are abiding by the same rules. Yeah, I'm done for now.
Go off the record. Go off the record.
There's really no Jews in them towers. Can you explain that? Well, spiritually, there were a lot of Jews in the towers. A lot of Jews died in those towers, spiritually. Oh, I see. Well, there's 3,000 Jews were not at work that day in those towers. That just give a lot of people have the impression that the Jewish population out there in New York, was aware that something was going to happen and they didn't show up for work that day. Yeah, we got a call from the Kahilla that Ariel and some of the boys in the Mossad, they got together and they wired up the building and they took them down. It was going to be a hard thing to take them down anyway because we wanted to build some new structures. The buildings were getting old and it was time to bring them down. This way, we make some shekels by destroying the building. Old Silverman, who's a good friend of mine there, Larry, he got a twofer. He got a 2-for-1 there, and he doubled the insurance magically just 3 months before it happened, and then he got a 2-for hit on it, so he made like 4 times his money. And I should have been in on the deal. He asked me, but I said, oh, I don't know, let me think about it. It took a little too long for me to think about it, and he pulled the plug, he pulled it, as they say, and so the buildings come down.
You believe that the Jews run the American government.
This way, we make some shekels by destroying the building.
It's not a secret, Charlie. The greatest loss of life. As I recall, something like 650 of his employees were murdered by terrorists that day.
Israel did 9/11, Charlie.
Howard Lutnick missed being a victim because he was delayed dropping his child off to kindergarten.
That's not a secret, Charlie.
I'm going to answer your question. This was what I spent my time doing. I spent
trying to look out for other survivors.
and I was taking care of the people who lost 3,000 lives. And I'm going to answer your question. This was what I spent my... You asked the question. I'm going to answer your question. This was what I spent my time doing. I spent
trying to look out for other survivors.
And I was taking care of the people who lost 3,000 lives.
And how do you know Howard Lutnick?
I know Howard Lutnick because when I was senator on 9/11, the firm he headed, Cantor Fitzgerald, suffered the greatest loss of life. If you would let me finish.
And obfuscate and say to this committee, you didn't try to get money from Jeffrey Epstein. There was an intimate event in an email that Howard Lutnick emailed to Epstein's people and Epstein to get him to come to your intimate event at Cantor Fitzgerald, a very small event. And so I'm not going to come. If you want to yell at me, that's fine, but I'll yell right back.
Well,
okay? I am looking out for survivors. I'm doing the job that you would not do and refuse to do as Secretary of State. Thank you, and I yield back to you.
No, I'm going to finish answering the question, which I have a right to do. I am very sympathetic to your personal situation.
There's still people out in doorways looking for shelter, and I think a lot of people think this is why we shouldn't allow hedge funds to own residential property.
And so what we were talking about earlier too is a little bit of the nostalgia aspect, right?
Yeah.
How this feels kind of like back in the 90s when we were growing up.
Yeah, like we were saying, yeah, it was much more snow, colder winters, and again, private equity didn't own so much of the housing stock in America.
Thank you so much,
There's still people out in doorways looking for shelter, and I think a lot of people think this is why. There's still people out in doorways looking for shelter, and I think a lot of people think this is why we shouldn't allow hedge funds to own residential properties.
And so what we were talking about earlier too is a little bit of the nostalgia aspect, right?
Yeah.
How this feels kind of like back in the 90s when we were growing up.
Yeah, like we were saying, yeah, it was much more snow, colder winters, and again, private equity didn't own so much of the housing stock.
They genießt van een object niet bij ons, maar niet als verwacht.